Real JP Multimedia, proud sponsor of the Nerdball Podcast. Here to help you with all things audio, video, graphics, photo, web design. From weddings to real estate, commercial business to private use, we offer a big variety of services for almost any budget. And if we can't do it, we will find someone who can. Find us at realjp.com. That's REELJP.com. Real JP Multimedia.
Good morning. I am Jack Weisenburger, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right, Jack. Perfect. You nailed it. Now, before we start, you're a very rare company here because very rarely do I have one high school kid. It's normally two, just because I always feel more comfortable.
Yeah, with someone else, yeah.
Yeah, and it just makes the conversation a little easier. But I have full confidence in you because, A, you are on another podcast, and I know you long enough where I know you're a talker too.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not worried about it. So I just wanted to let you know I didn't think twice about just saying, hey, you're by yourself. So thanks for being on here.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
So I want to get to Inside the Hive.
Of course.
I've had Mr. Rogers on. I've had Joel on, so we'll talk about that. But before that, the only other thing I know about you is that you are a golfer. Mm-hmm. You're in. I never remember. Do you play in the fall? You do it in the fall?
Yeah, golf is a fall sport.
Okay.
So our season always starts August 1st. That's when we have tryouts those first couple days. And golf is really, it's a sprint. It never feels like it's like a long season. It's like go, go, go. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, we're almost done. It's like you never know when something's happening. You're like, oh, geez, that's coming up. This is coming up. It's like, all right, wow. So first week you got tryouts, first couple days. Then like next day you got 3 tournaments in a row. Next week you got tournament. Then before you know it, you're like school starts. Then you got 2 matches a week. It's like let's go.
So have you been a golfer your whole life?
Yeah. So I've been, as long as I've known, I've been a golfer. There's pictures of me in a onesie. My dad's got like a golf club in my hand, like in a picture. It's off my room. Oh, it's a really good picture. But yeah, golf's always been a big part of my life, and it's been something that I've liked to do, and always just for fun. Or then I started doing it competitively and had a lot of fun with it. So golf has definitely been something that I've enjoyed, and I've made a lot of friendships and met a lot of different people through it. So it's been very good for me.
Did you grow up in Perrysburg?
I did, yeah. I've been in Perrysburg my whole life. And
so what's like your home course then that you always go to?
So in season we play at Belmont Country Club all the time, and then out of season I'm typically over at Toledo Country Club playing with everybody. It's funny, I'm like a unique situation where people are like, you're a kid, but like every single person that's here. Like, I walk in, they're like, "Hey, Jack, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good. How are you?" So and so. They're like, "How?" People walk up to me that like don't know. They're like, "How do you know all these?" I'm like, "I play golf with him. I played golf with him. Played golf with him. Sometimes play for a little money, take a couple bucks." They're like, "How is this? What is this kid doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just playing."
It's such an important skill to have though, as a high schooler. Is not to like know people, but the reason you know people is because you talk to people.
Yeah.
And yes, golf helps with that, but you also, just because you're golfing with someone doesn't automatically make you friends or want to talk to them. You can play a whole round in silence. Yeah. It still takes effort, still takes building on that skill. So that's, kudos to you to be able to do that, because it's going to serve you well going forward,
And I try and make an effort to talk to people, whoever I'm playing with, get to know a little bit about them, who they are, have a couple laughs. That's what my coaches always say. They're like, when we didn't take you to the one tournament, coach was like, "Where's Jack at today? Why is he not here? It's like something's missing. He's not out there talking to people. Like all these other kids I play with, they like practice, they get focused, they're ready to go. Then there's me. I'm out there. I'll putt a couple, and then I'll be talking to somebody, and they're like, Are you ready to go?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'll be ready." But I'm over there talking half the time, saying, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? You ready to go?" "Oh yeah, this is great. Whatever."
What do you like more about golfing? Is it the golf itself or just being able to be with people and talk to people?
I mean, I think they're equally as important. You know, you get to meet a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I've definitely gotten to do that over in high school and in other tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think the game, it teaches you a lot of mental fortitude. You got to really stay locked in mentally for the long run, because if you're not in it all the way, it can go south really quickly. And I think it's taught me a lot of different lessons.
Yeah. Well, that's great. When you first of all, I don't know the makeup of a high school golf team. I just know every year there's some banners of seniors, and they are like, oh yeah, we have a golf team, right? Or when someone's really good, you notice them too. Like there's a good girls golfer,
Sydney,
yeah. So like you pay attention to that, right? Much like any other sport. Like, I mean, people always pay attention to football, but they pay attention more when you're good or when Connor Waldensack is on the team, right? So can you explain? You said tryouts and all that stuff. How many kids typically try out? How many do you keep? Do you have JV teams? Like, how does the high school golf team work?
Yeah, so typically it kind of varies on the year. Some years we've had a lot of kids come out. Some years we haven't had as many. I think last year we had actually, like, I want to say around 21, 22 kids that came out, which is pretty good for us. And then typically, depending on the year, this year we had 5 seniors, so we kind of knew who was going to be on varsity. And then Josh, my brother, he was the 6th guy. So on varsity, you keep 6, maybe a couple floaters. So at max, you have 8 guys that play on varsity that rotate in. And then we have a JV team. Mr. Winkleman coaches that. I don't know if you know Mr. Winkleman, but
yeah, he's a real tall guy.
Yeah.
I went to school with him.
Yep, Wink coaches the JV. They have a lot of fun. So I think he has 10 or 12 kids that play on JV, and they rotate in and out. But yeah, we have about 20 kids in the program. We all kind of got to know each other and know a little bit about each other and just have fun with it. So
do you all practice together?
So no, varsity's at Belmont Monday through Thursday pretty much. We got really close. We practiced a lot together with each other. And then JV, they have practices every once in a while. They take a van from school. They go out to Fallen Timbers and practice, and then have their match schedule. So
So it's you guys are pretty much separate for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part we're separate, and maybe that'll change at some point in the future, but right now we're separate.
I would imagine it's hard to, like, hey, we need a golf course that's going to accommodate 20 players, right? At one time.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, well, it used to be when we changed times, like high school used to get out at 2:30, and then it was a lot easier for them to find a course, and now that we get out at 3:25, can't get on until 4, then all the people that get off work have their golf leagues and stuff like that, so it's a lot harder to find courses that will accommodate us, but luckily Belmont has been very nice to us and let us play there for free for the last 6 or 7 years, so It's been a great partnership.
Yeah. How is it having your brother on your team?
Whew, man, that's
a loaded question.
It's great, you know. We get to spend a lot of time together. We compete a lot, actually. Every single day is some sort of competition, not just with us or with some of the other guys, but so much competition that goes into it. For a while this season, Josh was playing some of the best golf on our team, and he took over the number 1 spot on our team, but in average wise, and playing with all the number 1 guys. Yeah, and he played really well, and I got to tip my hat to him. He was playing better than I was for a short period of time. But
man, you really emphasized the word short there.
I mean, it was well, our golf season's short, but there was about a 3-week period where he was just better than everyone we had, the most consistent guy we had. But
I feel like that's golf, though.
Yes, it is. Golf is very much ebbs and flows. You got to be peaking at the right time, as Coach DeLauder always likes to say. We want to be peaking in October, and we never seem to always do that. If I'm going to be honest, we always it seemed like August, we kind of knew who you were. September, we started to hit our stride. Then right about like mid-September, we're as good as we're going to be. October, we're like, all right, let's get to the playoffs. Let's make sure we do this. And then like towards the end of October, we're like, all right, just hang on for dear life. Let's get through it, you know. But the thing about Josh, he's come a long way. Like a couple of years ago, he wouldn't have touched a golf club. He just kind of wasn't interested. And then Josh, we played one day, he hit a hole-in-one. He's like, golf's the greatest sport ever.
Sure.
I'm in. And so he's motivated himself a lot these last couple of years to get better and do some work in the off season, and it's really paid off for him. But
having those great shots or the great day or whatever is what makes people stick with golf, because it's weird because it just seems like it could be like for Josh it was that hole in one, but it just could
100%.
be like one shot. Like, you see, I am good at this, and then you're like, well, I'm just gonna keep going, and 80% of the time I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, he was never really into it, and then one day he hit that, and he's like, I'm gonna play every day now. I'm like, okay, all right.
What grade is he in?
He's a sophomore now.
Okay, all right.
But thing about Josh is he can be really great a couple days, but then he has, I guess I'll put it, he has a short fuse where something goes wrong, he gets angry real fast. He's the type of kid that likes to make a lot of excuses, and you talk to people, I'm not really that way. I kind of like go with the flow, whatever, try to like block it out. But Josh is like the complete opposite. Anything he can use that's not his fault, he will try and find it, say, that's what happened. This kid was doing something to me, yada, yada, yada. Josh will find a way to make sure it was not his fault per se, but I love him, and he's been doing a great job, and hopefully he does well his next 2 years of high school. So
now I feel like that there is some truth in that because you're saying it, right? But also you're his older brother, and you're probably biased to the fact that there is a short fuse, and maybe you're just. Do you think are you blowing out of proportion, or it's?
I mean, I don't think necessarily. I mean, you might have to ask other people. You can ask. You can ask either of our coaches, DeLauder or Thompson. They'll tell you, Josh, he's a nice kid. He always does the right things. But then there's, those days on the golf course where it's not going his way. He doesn't necessarily handle it correctly, as they would say, and he'll get angry. And
well,
we have a couple kids on our team that are like that, but it happens.
Well, it takes all kinds, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he never showed that short fuse when he was an umpire, which is probably good. At least I never saw that.
When he showed up to ump with it. Yeah, you want to ump today? No, I'm good. I'm just going to stay home. I'm like, you got the job. What you're not going to work? No, I'm good. I'm not coming to work today. I'm like, okay. But no, Josh wouldn't do that in a larger public setting. Like being an umpire, I don't think he'd have a short fuse. But in golf, something he's grown to like love and
it's so
becomes,
intimate.
He gets very frustrated.
That's right. I think it's a good. It can be a good thing sometimes as long as you can hone it in, right? You can't go through life like everything's peachy all the time, right? Because he might be over here and you're way over here, where that stuff doesn't bother you. Where I'm sure at some point you get upset about things, right? But it's good to be able to hone it in at some point. Josh, I'm on your side a little bit here, so I don't want this to bash Josh.
No, that's not what this is about.
I know, I just messed around.
We'll see how far we go with that, but there may be more to the story today, but who knows?
Sure. Well, maybe if you want to write in, Josh, the email is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. So he can send an email.
Come on in, Josh.
Yeah.
What else do you want me to answer for the public?
When you go play a match, are there courses that you're like, ugh, I hate that course?
Yes, and I'll try and answer very carefully because I don't want to ruin anything for our team in the future. But I think it's become very well known that Perrysburg High School and Brandywine Country Club do not necessarily get along, and that we don't necessarily play very well there. Not saying it's necessarily all the course because there's a lot of mental aspects like we've talked about, but Perrysburg High School and Brandywine do not get along. We've never played well there. It's kind of gone downhill, although when we played Anthony Wayne there in our match, it was in very nice shape, which was a shock to us. But I got us Brandywine. It used to be a very good golf course. People always say, "Oh, this used to be awesome," but we live in the present, and I never got to see that. And I'm a little upset that I didn't get to see it in its former glory. But now I feel like it's just not the same as everyone claims it was, and it's not the same. And another one is, this one, I'm sorry, but this is more driven towards Josh. He doesn't like it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but Cody Schneider is a huge fan of it, and he's played like the best golf of his life there. Every time we play there is Heather Downs Country Club.
Okay, all right.
So like Heather Downs, again, my mom used to be a member there, which he grew up, and they tell all these. And my parents were there in the early 2000s, and they tell stories about how it used to be awesome. It used to be a pool. There used to be this and that, and I'm looking at it now. I'm like, how far has this come down? Like, it's sad. It's sad to see. Like when my grandparents come back from Arizona and they used to be members there, they see it now. They're like, this is just not the same place.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it's got a lot of history and it was a good course, but now it's not the same. So it's a little sad to see. And those are two courses that I'm not exactly my favorites, but if I have to play them, I'll play them. But I'm not going to go out of my way to, let's go play there.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
So what's your favorite course then? Because you go ahead and take a drink of water. But so you have these courses that you struggle or your team struggles, and part of that might be mentally too.
Yes.
Like you going into, you're like, ugh.
Brandywine is
right
100%.
Away. Right away, you have that that feeling. But so what on the other side of the coin? What's something you're like, man, I can't wait to play there?
So I think in our matches, some of my favorite courses have been the Legacy, just because for our team, it's so wide open. We got a couple kids who are a little erratic off the tee and spray it, but they can still get the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one for us. And then Stone Ridge is just beautiful down in BG. Every time we play there, it's in fabulous condition, and we always have a lot of fun there. So those are two courses that I've really come to enjoy, both Legacy and Stone Ridge. A little bit different courses, but two of the better ones that we play during the year, and they're a lot of fun to play. But this year we also got to play Findlay Country Club for the first time because they're coming into the NLL expansion, and I thought that was a very, very nice golf course, and hopefully they stay in the league for a long time because I think a lot of kids will have a good experience there. So,
nice. All right. So I played golf a few times. Just it's more of a I'm terrible, but I know I'm terrible, and I just have fun with my buddies.
Right.
And drive
That's
the
what
golf
it's all
cart,
about.
Yeah. So, but we would always play Fallen Timbers because it was cheap at the time.
Still is.
I think when we would play, this is right out of high school. After 5, all you can golf. $15 with a cart.
Yep.
So we try to hammer out as many holes as we could. Usually get about 12, and then it gets too dark. Riverby, we go there.
Riverby's great too.
Yeah, we go there, and then there's one more. It's on the way to BG, and I can't remember what it is right now. But we would always play there because again, it was cheap.
Yeah,
it's not that great of a course. They had foot golf there actually at one point, which I never tried, but it looked like fun. Which is soccer golf basically. Gosh, I wish I knew the name of that one. But that was whenever we told people we played, it was like, why are you playing there? It was like, well, we're 20 years old and we don't have a lot of money.
And it's not always about the quality of the course. If you're there to play with friends, play where you can.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I know Josh and his friends, they like to go out to crosswinds and play and do stuff like that. And I know my friends have asked me to play. We still haven't gotten to that point. I'm blaming Grant for that. He's like, oh, let's go play. I'm like, all right, get a tee time. Gets a tee time. Then a couple of days before, he backs out or something like that. I'm like, come on, dude. You're always so excited to go play. Let's go do it. Hopefully this summer we will get a couple times before we go off to separate places. But it's always, there's some good stories.
Is Crosswinds the one on 20?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it used to be called something else because we would play there when it was only a 9-hole course.
Yeah.
But we would play there quite a bit too because again, it's affordable.
Yeah.
Right. So and now it's when it was 9 holes, there was a bunch of trees around. And now the back 9 is just wide open because they created
pretty much
from a
the
farm
whole course. Yeah, it's like that. But
a
lot of people look for it too. They're like, "What's the easiest course I can play so I don't have to torture myself?"
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go through all this suffering of having to hit a difficult golf shot.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why a lot of people pick those courses. There's nothing wrong with that. You're supposed to enjoy the games.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find when you go to these tournaments stuff because you're the way you are, do you find see the other kids and get upset about this and that? Like, man, I'm glad I don't feel that way.
It's fun. It just depends. Some kids are like, "Oh, this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever. Like, why are we playing here?" I'm like, that's just where it is today. You just gotta suck it up. You gotta deal with it. Get through your 18 holes or whatever. Sign your scorecard and move on. You try and have fun with it. You do the best you can and just be the best golfer you can be. I know some people are like, we should never play here again, but I'm like, you know what? It's kind of a fun course. If they do it, you always try and think what they can do better in a perfect world to make it a better golf course. So you look at it and you go, well, if they do this thing or that thing, this could actually be a really, really good golf course. So, there's different things that go into it, and I hope some people come to realize that it's not necessary. Not every golf course is going to be perfect. There's a lot of golf courses that are not as easily maintainable, and that's just part of it.
Have you ever played at Inverness?
I have. So I actually work in Inverness during the summer, so I caddy there probably 3 times a week, make some quick side cash. It's very good for my bank account. I've played Inverness couple times. On Mondays, we get to play there for free as caddies.
Oh, nice.
And then I played there once in a tournament. I qualified for it. I had my uncle caddy for me in it. That was a cool little moment there. Yeah. And I played with some friends of mine who were in the tournament as well, and we had a good time with it. But Inverness is just such an awesome thing. And I think it's really great for the city because it's got a lot of potential to bring a lot of people into the city of Toledo and bring back some money and and fame to Toledo from what it used to be. And I think that Inverness is such a quality item for Toledo, and it has a lot to bring. And it's just such a beautiful piece of property when you look out there and you go and you see now you can see every single hole across the property. When I caddy for people who are from out of town, they're like, "Wow, this is a special place." That's
cool,
and it truly is.
Did you get to go to that Senior Open when it was there?
I did not, but I went to the Solheim Cup when that was here.
Oh, nice.
That was last year now, I think, and that was a lot of fun. Kyle Ross and I worked concessions the one day at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
got there, worked concessions, and it's the weirdest thing. You're like, you never knew you were craving a cheeseburger at 9:30 in the morning. Like all these people coming up, they're like, "What do you got?" I'm like, "Well, we got this." So they're like, "I'll take a cheeseburger." I'm like, "Okay," And this one member, he tells a story. He goes, "I never thought I'd see the day where I'm like, yeah, cheeseburger, 9:30. This is the spot."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's a whole new horizon when you're here. You're like, you're doing all your volunteer hours or your service, and you're like, yeah, I think a cheeseburger will do the trick right now.
That's awesome. Have you gone to, or do you go to golf tournaments and like big tournaments and any of that stuff? Or have you been to any majors or anything?
So I got to go to last year. My dad won the lottery for the Masters.
Oh,
and we got to go to the practice round in the par 3, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And we got him before COVID. So he won the lottery in January before COVID, and we had the tickets, and we were getting ready to go. Then COVID hits, and you're like, oh, well, we can't go. It's such a shame. Then COVID's still a thing, so we can't go again. But this whole time, which is the best part about it, you had access to, like, the pro shop and merchandising. So you can buy whatever you want as long as you have tickets, so you can buy all your memorabilia and stuff like that. So people are asking, like, can you get me this? Can you give me that? I'm like, sure. I'll bill you the cost, whatever, buy it. So for 3 years, we had access to the pro shop, which was really cool. That was probably the best part about it. Sure. You got maximum merchandising, and then we finally got to go last April, and it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Just the undulation, and truly, when you watch it on TV, you don't really get to see like all the hills and undulation. I remember when we walked out onto the property and we got to the first hole. I'm like, wow, that is straight up. And then you see them, you're like, how do they walk this thing? They go all the way down, they go up, you go down. And some of the hills, like number 10, it goes like straight down and then straight across. And some of the hills on the front 9 and the back 9 are just like, you're like, I don't see this on TV. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's truly one of the greatest pieces of property, and it's like all fenced in, and it's an incredible experience. If you ever get the chance to go, it'll change your life, really.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I hear people talk about it, like Scott Van Pelt always talks about it, and Ryan Russillo, he went a few times. But it seems like a cool place, and you're probably 100% right, because on TV you're just like, yeah, this place looks cool. So I would imagine in person it's
you do not get the full perspective. And I'll say something. And the concession stand at the Masters is probably one of the greatest.
I hear about that all the time.
It's the most efficient concession stand in the world, and it's still one of the most affordable.
Yes,
like you can get anything because they know they're going to make $190 or $150 off of shirts and hats and belts or whatever. So they're not trying to. And parking's free when you go there. You park, it's all free. You walk in, concessions is cheap. You're like, this is the greatest thing ever. They got people. They got so many workers there that volunteer, and they couldn't do it without them, really, that they're there, and they help you through the line. You pick out, like, pimento cheese sandwich, $1, ice cream, $1. Everything's $1. You're like, this is great. I got, like, a handful of stuff for, like, $11. This is awesome. And you're walking your way around. You get thirsty, grab a lemonade, grab a water, grab a Powerade. It's all, like, $1. So you're like, this is incredible. I'm not paying $7.50 for a water.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's because I had heard about that, especially the pimento cheese or whatever too. People talk about that, but yeah, just the affordability of it once you get in there, Well, we've been talking about you have such a positive attitude. It seems like you're just, nothing brings you down or whatever. And I knew that was for a fact because you're wearing a Browns jersey. And if that team doesn't bring you down, then I don't.
Well,
I don't know what
we'll see after today.
What's their record right now? Like 3-7?
We are currently sitting at 3-6.
Yeah. Okay. All right. When's your guy come back?
Deshaun comes back in 2 weeks.
Okay. All right.
After we play Josh Allen and Tom Brady, so
How do you feel? How'd you feel when they signed him?
All right. It's a very loaded question.
100%, 100%. And you're
some people may attack me for it, and I'm okay with that. But I look at it. It was a good move for the Browns, and sure, it may backfire if he's not as good as he once was. But when you look at where Cleveland has been and what they have been through the past, 20 plus years, and how they have consistently failed to find a quarterback, and now there is someone out there that will come and play for you if you trade for him, and he's willing to put in the effort. It's like, why not do it? And then people are going to look at these misconducts and allegations against him, and I'm not saying he's innocent, but you never know exactly what went into all that, and that's okay. But also, other people are like attacking Browns fans. He's like, oh, you got Deshaun Watson. How can you be a Browns fan? Yada, yada, yada. It's not like the Browns were the only team that tried to go out there and get him. There were 12 other fan bases and teams that tried to get him. So don't come attacking Browns fans just because we got Deshaun Watson. Your team was after him, and your team was after him. And it's like, just because we got him, they want to attack us. Maybe because their team didn't get him. I don't know, or maybe just because they think he's that bad of a person. But
that too, and I mean, the NFL is full of people who are bad people or do bad things, right? Maybe not necessarily bad people, but do bad things. And teams still continue to root for him. I think it's just highlighted because he's a quarterback.
Yes.
It's such a quarterback-driven league.
And
right?
I think if you look at it from the NFL owner's perspective, they are not a fan of the contract that he received and how much guaranteed money went into it. They're like, we're not doing this. We're not paying all our quarterbacks fully guaranteed contracts and stuff like that. It's not like baseball where every single penny is guaranteed to you, which is awesome. I wish I was a baseball player, but
And I'm not saying like what he did is we can sweep it under the rug, just like you said, right? He did bad things, or he was alleged to do bad things, and he's paying the consequences now. And should there have been more penalties or less penalties? I don't know. I'm not the person that decides that.
And it seems odd to me because he originally received a 6-game suspension, and I'm like, oh, that's reasonable. I mean, I don't know if it's reasonable, but that's the conclusion they came to.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, all right, it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. That's what the judge said. 6 games is what we deem is fair. And then the NFL comes out and says, no, that's not enough. You're getting 11. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Like, do you just not want him to play? Just get rid of him forever, and then we just get rid of the contract and bring someone else in. It's like total double standard, and I'm not saying that it's the reason that we're 3-6, but I definitely feel like if he came back after 6 games, we might be a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, that and punishments in the NFL are all over the place because you have, what's his name? Josh
Gordon.
Yeah. Who's gotten basically kicked out of the league for smoking pot, right?
Smoking pot.
Yeah. So it's hard to understand, like, hey, where are we coming from, or what are we doing? Like, why are all these why is this penalty over here and this over here? And that's, I think, another reason people are upset is because there's no like black and white. If you do these things, here's what happens to you. You know. So, but you're going to the game today. You said,
yes,
right? Yeah,
I am going. Yeah. It's one of the, I guess, blessings of the snowstorm. Praying for the people in Buffalo, but got moved to Detroit, and early in the week I'm talking about. I'm like, there's no way they move it. They're not gonna move it. It's Buffalo. Those people, they'll plow through anything for a Bills game. They'll shovel out the stadium. I know.
Yeah.
Last time they had a snowstorm come through, I read the article that said they offered people $10 an hour to come shovel it out, and then you get to go to the game for free. So I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Yeah.
Make a quick $50 and go to the game. You might spend it at concessions, but that's all right. You got to go for free, basically.
Yeah.
So, and then when they finally moved it on Thursday, I'm like, it's only an hour away, and I'm sure, the tickets won't be too overly priced considering how quick it is, and they want people in the building.
Yeah.
So, looked at them Friday, and they were $65 for a decent seat. I'm like, anyone want to go? My mom's like, sure, I'll go. My aunt came in from Arizona because we're going to the Ohio State-Michigan game next week. And she goes, yeah, I'll go.
That's
and I'm
awesome.
like, all right. And I'm like, Josh, you want to go? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's go. I got 4 tickets on my phone, and we'll see how it goes this afternoon. Hopefully they don't embarrass us too much. I'm not saying I'm expecting the perfection because that never happens in the NFL, but I just want to be entertained for at least 3.5 quarters.
Yeah. Did you see the pictures in Buffalo from the
I did. Those were crazy.
Yeah.
And you look at it, you're like, people like 10 miles down the road got like 6 inches, and then you go 10 miles this way, and they got all the way up, half the way up their waist and stuff like that. It's just bizarre.
There was videos, too, I saw of fans helping some of the players get out of their driveways and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they brought shovels.
City
and
comes
snow
together
throwers.
like that.
Well, cool, man. Have you been to other Browns games this year?
So I have. So Joel, I don't know if he has season tickets to the Browns.
Yeah, he talked about that, yeah.
We went to a game together, and we probably shouldn't anymore because it seems like every time Joel and I go to a game, we get like the doors blown off of us, and it's happened twice. There's been 2 games where we've been blown out this season, and Joel and I went to the Patriots game. I'm looking at it. I go, backup quarterback versus backup quarterback. We're at home. We got the better running attack.
Yeah.
We should win.
Yeah.
And we get in there, and typical Browns fashion, start the game off 2 plays in with an interception. I'm like, all right, here we go. Then they just pour it on us for about the next 30 minutes, and I'm like, okay, all right. Even at halftime, I'm like, we're down 8-ish points. We got a chance. We're still only down 16 points. We got a chance. we score a touchdown, and then I'm on my phone. I look down. They try an onside kick that they end up not getting because, of course, he's out of bounds when they recover it the one time they will all season.
Yeah.
So, it just seems like every time Joel and I try and go to a Browns game together, they just get absolutely slaughtered. And we'll still continue to do it just because we love to go to Browns games, but hopefully we have a different outcome.
Yeah. Do you like all Cleveland sports?
I do. I'm a huge Guardians fan.
Yeah.
Love the Guards. They were such a special team this year.
That was so much fun.
So much fun to watch, and they just got outspent, I guess, when you look at it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I tell you what, I'm not going to blame it their loss, but that weather.
The rain didn't help us at all, really. They got Cortez back, and then it's still a questionable decision to start Savali in Game 5. I probably would have gone just with the bullpen because it carried them all season, but, hindsight's 20/20, and they made it a lot farther than anyone thought they would.
Yeah, everyone thought they were going to be like 3rd or 4th place in the league, or in the division.
Yeah, in the division, no one picked him to win the division, or even finish 2nd in the division for that matter. Everyone was so high on the Twins and the White Sox, and even some people were picking the Tigers for that matter, and they were a disaster this season. So you look at it and you're like, they accomplished a lot, and when you hear some of those players talk, they really came together as a team and played together, and everyone says the quote is they played that disgusting brand of baseball. They just hit the ball around where you're not
and run hard,
run the bases, get people out.
Yep.
Don't make the stupid mistakes that all these other teams make, and that's how they were able to beat you. And I think they definitely have a bright future when you look at it going forward. They ban the shift. They find the hole where people are not. So they should be able to do some good things in the next couple of years. Just lock down a couple guys at affordable prices. Obviously, you're going to have to pay some of your starting pitchers, Bieber and McKenzie, and some guys in the bullpen and the outfield, but you got to do what you got to do to keep it successful. So.
Yeah, and that's the one thing they've done more than any other team that I'm aware of is sign their guys super early.
Yes.
And get hoping, crossing their fingers that they're going to continue, right? They did that with Jose Ramirez.
And look at how that worked out.
And for us, like Jose Ramirez will forever be my favorite Guardian / Indian because he's like, why would I leave here? And he stayed. And I don't remember any superstar ever. Yes,
no.
Yes. So he will forever be my favorite player, unless somebody else does it too. Then they'll be on the same level. But I loved watching them. It's so much fun. My son loves watching the baseball games too. I think he went to one with my dad and my mom. He got to go to a game this year. But yeah, watching Watching them in the playoffs. I remember we were going to Springfield for a football game when they beat the Yankees in one of their games, and just like listen to it on the phone. And the bus driver had it on in the bus radio, so I was just like everyone was getting off the bus, and the game was almost over. So I'm just sitting there waiting for the game to be over. But baseball's so awesome.
Baseball's great, and it's funny. Like my mom always asks me, like, why would they leave Cleveland when they got to go to New York and pay so many taxes, all this money in taxes? I'm like, they do not care about the taxes, all right? You could make 150 in Cleveland and 250 in New York and get in the same place. I'm like, they do not care at all. They want the national media. They want everything else. They want to be in the spotlight because everyone's like, Cleveland's not in the spotlight. But I think eventually they'll get there. They got some young talent in the city. So
the one thing, obviously, you talked about defense, and they won 4 gold gloves this year. And the one thing I wish they would go get, and they won't, is a good catcher. Like, we have good defensive catcher, that's what we do, right? You say discussing baseball, it's all defense, hit singles and doubles. But man, did Miles Straw and our pair of catchers just not hit. Miles Straw's
he
started off the season so hot, too.
I know, and you look at him previously, he's like a 260, 270 hitter his first 4 years, and maybe he just had a down year this year. I don't know why, but it happens. But it's just some catcher. It's been like 10. It seems like it's been 10 years where you've got a catcher hitting like 200 or worse, and it's like we just need someone who is halfway decent, who can bat maybe even a 225, hit a couple homers, like something. And I know that's not the direction baseball's going. Averages are getting lower and lower, but it's like, just give us something behind the plate.
Yeah.
I mean, defense is great, and you need a sound catcher back there who knows how to call a game, but you also need a little bit of offensive production in the playoffs. When you look at this year's playoffs, it was all who scored. When you score a lot, you're going to win. You can't win every single game 3-2, 2-1, like the guards did a lot this year, and the walk-offs, the comebacks. You can't expect to do that when you can't really score that many runs.
Yes.
So it's very difficult.
Well, the game against the Rays that went
15
innings, scoreless innings,
or whatever, 15, 18. I don't even remember the exact number, but I'm like, they played 2. I think it was 18. They played 2 full games before someone scored a run.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah, now I tell you what,
can't have that.
That's why people don't like baseball, but that was so exciting because
absolutely.
any pitch, just like that's how it ended, right?
Yep.
One pitch against my boy Kluber. I was sad a little bit because I like Corey Kluber, and it wasn't. It was
ironic.
He got traded, but I liked him. But yeah, it's so frustrating. Then I look at. Do you remember when we traded Francisco Mejia to the Padres?
Yeah, he was part of that
catcher, right?
Big deal, yeah.
Yeah, so I look to see where he's at. He signed this offseason for like a couple $1 million. I'm like, why can't we get something like that, right?
Just bring someone back. You know?
Yeah. It's frustrating. So I only like that's the only Cleveland team I like. I like Texas teams because my parents are from Texas. But you're a Cavs fan also.
Yeah, I'm not a big NBA guy. My dad always grew up like in the 76ers, so I kind of like them a little bit, and I follow the Cavs somewhat. I'm not a big NBA guy. I think it's not the best sport, if I'm being honest. I feel like, some people say that my brother, he's like the playoffs are staged. They say who's gonna win each game. I'm like, I'm not that far, but I just think the NBA it's not as good as maybe it used to be. Like people talk about like the 80s and 90s with Jordan and the Bad Boys and the Pistons and how great the NBA used to be, even in the early 2000s with Kobe and Dwayne Wade and all those players and the rise of LeBron. But now the NBA is it's like a joke. No one plays defense. They don't call a travel. The refs are just out there getting paid to do nothing except blow the whistle a couple of times.
There is a lot of teams scoring 120 plus
exactly.
points.
They just score and score. Then the ref blows the whistle, and the coach will say, "Yeah, you weren't supposed to blow it yet. Like, come on, you can't call." Just a terrible foul at the wrong time, just to get some media push, and like this was a terrible call. And then it's like you got all the drama with the Nets and Kyrie Irving and stuff like that. It's like the NBA is just
it's like a soap opera.
Oh my goodness! And they're all getting these supermax deals now, trying to play with each other, building a dynasty like we're on 2K or something like that. Like, oh, we'll pay you $300 million over 5 years. We'll pay you $250 million. Like, that's not how the game's supposed to be played, man. Like, what are we doing?
So we've talked about a lot of sports. What is your favorite sport to play, and what is your favorite sport to watch?
Oh man. So obviously big golf guy, but I also used to love playing baseball, and we talked about that. I played catcher for a long time, and had a lot of fun with that, playing travel ball and stuff like that. And baseball was always like my second sport, but I also used to play basketball, and I know you've had a couple of our CYO basketball teammates on here. We've got a lot of good stories about that state championship run, all that stuff. That's some of the greatest like sports memories I have is from that CYO basketball.
Are you gonna do it again?
Out. Oh yeah, we have. Supposedly we have a practice we have a practice one of the next 2 days, Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, all right, I'll be there. That's kind of how it is for us. We're like, we got a practice this week. All right, what day is it? All right, I'll show up. Get together, do a couple things. Go over some stuff, and then we go out there and we just play. We're not like. Everyone's like, CYO is so serious. I'm like, we just literally get together once a week, practice, and then just go play.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was when I played.
Yeah.
I played CYO, same thing.
It's
you
great.
guys got to defend your state title.
Yes,
too, right?
yes, we do.
Yeah.
That is the goal, and this year we get to travel outside Toledo, which last year was in Toledo.
Yeah.
And this year I don't know exactly where it's at. I believe it's either Cleveland or Cincinnati is hosting it this year, which will be fun to stay in a hotel with that group of young men and
so who
do some questionable things. But,
so who's on the team?
So this year we have myself, Kyle Ross, Jack Nordahl, Jack Bohr, Gio Restivo, TJ Tackett. Then we have Grant Zimmerle's coming back this year. Jack Nordahl, Joe Caswell, and Eli Diller. So I think there's 10 of us, and I think that's all we're gonna have this year.
Connor's not, I thought Connor he's not playing.
Connor did play for us last year, and Connor is one of the best basketball defenders I've ever seen. And we would not have won the state championship if Connor was not on our team.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to play this year. I haven't talked to him yet about it, but with all this spring football and stuff like that, but we'll see. Hopefully he does. That'd be awesome, and we'd have basically the same team, and we had a 6'6" guy who can just dominate the paint. So,
well, was Grant a good football or basketball player when he played?
Oh my goodness,
is he just
Grant.
Big
it's
guy?
Funny. Grant understands basketball and he knows what he's supposed to do, but it's like when he gets in motion, it's like, oh boy, like he's almost out of control sometimes, and then it almost got to the point where it was like hack-a-shack almost, where you just put him on the free throw line instead of letting him keep grabbing the boards, because Grant has always struggled at the free throw line. I think he makes probably 40% of them from the line, and Coach Ross just sits there and looks at him like, if you just make 60%, we could score 20 more points a game. Like, just 6 out of 10, Grant. That I'm not asking for a lot. I know you can do a little simple math. That's 6 out of every 10. That's 2 extra shots. Put a couple more up in practice, and we'll be a lot better.
Yeah.
Which our team does struggle with free throw shooting. We're not the best free throw shooting team in CYO. You look at other teams; they're like 7 for 7 in a game. We'll be 2 for 14 or something like that, and we're like killing ourselves at the line and stuff like that. But the greatest free throw shooting of our team came in crunch time when Jack made 2 free throws against St. Rose to get us into overtime and win the game. So when it mattered the most, Jack stepped up and made the 2 biggest free throws of his life, I'm sure. But CYO basketball is just a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, yeah.
But yeah, right. I mean, probably the best sport to watch for me is football. I mean, I just love watching college football. It's rivalry week now. Ohio State.
I say you like Ohio State.
Yeah, so my mom has had season tickets to Ohio State since 1980, so she's been going to games for a long time. And then we've been going to games since I've been old enough to go. Like, I think my mom told me, she goes, yeah, the first Ohio State game I brought you to, you were 3 months old. You were sitting there with us. And I'm like, yeah, I get it now. And it's such a big part of our family and a lot of families around the area. And I think this week is very special around here. Ohio State, Michigan.
Sure.
A lot of people get into it. And I think, especially now that Michigan's kind of returned to what they used to be, I think some Michigan fans were afraid to come out and speak out when they were not as good as Ohio State was. And now that they won one, that was rough. And you see all these Michigan fans like rise from the ashes and plant their flags in their yard again. You're like, oh, you're back.
Yeah.
It's great. It's good to see you again. You know, you've been gone for the last 10 years, but you're back now. So
Well, what's tough is Ohio State has beaten Michigan like a billion times in a row.
Yeah.
So when they do get one, the only thing I didn't like, they won last year. They haven't won in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. They have the right and the ability to celebrate.
Yes.
But
yes,
Ohio State fans continually just like, oh, good job, you won one. Well, just let them celebrate. They won one.
Yeah, you can celebrate, but then a lot of it is they try to go too far with it, and I think that's a big part of it. But for like the last 3-4 years leading up to it, all you ever heard out of Michigan fans was JT was short, and I'm like, that was 4 years ago. I was there at the game about parallel to where JT was. He got across the line. You look at it, the football is just barely across the line. That's what they called on the field. Oh, but JT was short. Every argument ended with JT was short. And I'm like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, would that have changed the face of Michigan football? I don't know. Would it have changed Michigan football? I don't know. We'll never know. And maybe they're starting to get back on track. I don't know. But we'll see.
That's so good. Well, before we've been talking 45 minutes and we didn't even talk about your podcast. So I had Joel on here.
Yeah.
I had Mr. Rogers. We talked about it. I understand how they got, started with it and got involved. How did you get involved? Was it already done? Or was it like, hey, we need Jack, or they asked you?
So I don't know what Joel told you, but basically, JSN when Rogers started it, I wasn't originally in it. And they came up with the idea to revive the podcast. And the members of JSN before me, Rogers asked him, hey, who should we get to do this? And they're like, I think Jack Weisenburger would be perfect for it. Yeah. That's what they said. So then I'm just sitting in class one day, third period, 4-5 period, whatever. Rogers walks in, sits down like across the table from me, and he goes, Jack, how you doing? I'm like, good. How are you doing? What are you doing here? He goes, so there's been some recommendations by some of your peers and another teacher that you should do a podcast for us. And I'm like, they go, would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds like a good opportunity. I didn't really know much at the time. Didn't know where we would be now. But at the time, I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, I'll do it. And they're like, great. We'll figure out the specifics later. But I got onto it and they go, we'll find you a co-host later. And then I was starting to tell people about how I'm going to do this podcast. Yeah. Didn't really know where it was going to go. And then I'm like, we're finding a co-host. And then Joel's like, oh, that sounds cool. And then a couple days later, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to be the co-host. I'm like, oh, okay. I go, just go ask Rogers. He goes, can I be the co-host? He goes, yeah, sure. And then he goes, all right, I'm your co-host. I'm like, all right, great. Fantastic.
Yeah. And it's something you have 7 episodes?
We have, yes. Episode
right?
7 was last week. Yep. Episode 8 we're doing on Tuesday with the Hunts.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes.
And I haven't, is it every week you guys are putting one out?
Yeah. Right now we're trying to do one every week. Okay. Typically we produce it on Tuesdays and get it out either Wednesday or Thursday, but we have a couple special episodes coming up in the next couple weeks that we'll do on Mondays and then hopefully get them out on Tuesday or Wednesday. And, we just recently got our first sponsor, so Sidelines has been interested in our podcast, and we're going to start to do some work with them. So that's a big thing for us. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's always an added thing. Like, oh, people are interested in this thing.
Yes.
Not just my family. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about this podcast. I was talking to Joel on the sideline one time during practice, and I told him, for me, it doesn't matter. Like, obviously, I want a bunch of people to listen, right? I would love for everyone to listen to this podcast. Yeah. But when somebody just comes up to me and be like, hey, I listen to your podcast when I work out, or I listen to your podcast when I drive to work, or I look forward to every Monday and Thursday when you put one out. You know, even if it's a few of those people, then I was like, cool, I'm going to keep doing this. Because I like to do it. But somebody's out there listening.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was funny, Joel. I told Joel I was coming on here. I go, yeah, I'm coming on the Nerd Ball with Melcher. And he goes, you are? I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, look at that. Like 2 weeks after I asked him, he accepted. He goes, Jack, it took me like 2 years to get a spot on there, and you got it in 2 weeks. I'm like, I just asked the question, and he said yes. I'm like, all right, this is great.
Yeah, Joel would always give me shit for that too, because he would always
so funny.
He was like, when am I coming?
He was very upset. I'm like,
I'm sorry,
Joel. I'm like,
I didn't think
he just said yes, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, part of it for most of this season, I didn't have one of these mic stands. I didn't have, so I couldn't have more than. I could just be 2 people, so I needed to get more. And I don't know. It just didn't work out, or I had other people on, or do whatever. Sorry, Joel. Yeah. That's so funny that happened.
Oh, he's like, how are you on there already? I'm like,
And not to say Joel isn't a good communicator, right? But you are, and I knew because part of it too is finding another person, and it's easy to schedule when it's just one person. It's easy to say yes. Are you available? If it's 2 people, it's like, well, let me check with this person. Well, they can't do this time, or they can't do this day, or I can do the other day, or whatever. So, but Inside the Hive is what it's called, right?
Yep,
I don't think
that is correct.
Jacket Sports Network. You guys are out on anywhere you can get a podcast.
Yeah, right now we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Okay, it's a great listen. If you haven't listened to it, please do. It's much like these. It's obviously Inside the Hive. It's Perrysburg focused. You know, that's what these are, and I'm trying to get beyond that at some point. But it's great for the community. It's great for you guys to be able to learn conversations and learn how to do that kind of stuff. Ask questions to not only your peers but adults. But it's good for your guests too, especially when other high school kids come on there to be a part of something like that. It's cool. It's a cool experience. So I know you got to get out of here because you got to go to the game. I appreciate you coming on here, man.
Thank you.
This was awesome. I look forward to hopefully. Well, no, not hopefully your Browns win, because if they do win, then my mother-in-law is going to be upset, and my wife might be upset too. So
you got to protect the family first. Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks again, Jack.
Yeah, no problem. This has been a great opportunity, and I thank you for it. And please stay tuned for next week's Inside the Hive.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Nerd Ball Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're hearing this, on any of the podcatchers, on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're coming at you 2 times a week now, audio and video. Check us out on all the social medias. Just search the Nerd Ball Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're out there. Gmail is the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to shoot us an email, we'd be happy to get back to you. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.